Yes, hi. Hi. Do you guys want to say a few words? Can we get that off the screen? We'll just get this off the screen. Can we get this off the screen and then that way they can...
Do you want anything on there at all?
No, not yet. We'll do it later.
All right.
Good morning. This is such a treat. My name is Angela, and it is my first time in London, ever. And I got here last night, and I got to go around the city just a little bit, and it's just been a dream because I've been counting the days, not just to come here, but I've been counting the days to meet you. So you know that you haven't met me yet, but I've been thinking about you for the last 6 weeks and thinking about this conversation. And so I know some of you know a little bit about me, so raise your hand if you did do any research or talk, or if I'm new to you. So if you know me, a little bit about me, raise your hand. So I just have a sense. All right, if you have no idea who this weird lady is that showed up from America in your classroom today, raise your hand. All right, good, I like that, I like that. So most people, when they meet someone new, it goes something like this. So, hi, I'm Angela, nice to meet you. What's your name?
Daisy.
Daisy, what do you do?
I work for Choose to Matter.
You work for Choose to Matter. Oh, tell me about that job. So that's how normal, mostly, people introduce themselves. They tell their name and they describe their job, what they do. But Daisy, am I normal?
No.
Not even close to normal. So I've never introduced myself to someone that way. So Daisy, how do I introduce myself when I meet people?
This is what Angela does. She comes up to you and she'll say, well, first of all, she never shakes her hand. She's like,
Hi,
how
are you?
Angela, how are you? And then she goes, my name is Angela, what's your name? And then I'll say, my name's Daisy. And she said, hi, Daisy, what's your genius?
And how was that the first time we met, Daisy?
Just petrifying, because who asks you that? And then you think to yourself, I have no clue. What is my genius?
So if I walked up to you, tell me your first name. You're like, please don't come near me. So what's your first name?
Jacob.
So if I say, hi, Jacob, what's your genius? How would you answer that? You don't have to do that right now, so we'll work on that. That's usually what happens. People stop, they look at me. Some say, that is the weirdest question I've ever heard in my life. Some try to run away from me. Some try to pretend they didn't hear it. Like, oh, okay, and they tell me their job anyway. So when they start telling me their job, I say, I don't want to know what your job is. I can look that up. I want to know what your genius is. I want to know why you do your job. I want to know what makes you get up in the morning. I want to know what makes you run to school and what makes you not run to school. Because genius is your birthright. Genius is what makes a human being come alive. Genius is the reason that you do what you do so that you can be who you can be. And so it's such an unusual question, but I started my conversations in education 31 years ago as a kindergarten teacher. And that's how we started every day. And we didn't start it because I ignited it. We started it because every 5-year-old comes up to you without even asking, and they share their genius with you. Have you been around a 5-year-old lately? How many of you have little brothers or sisters? All right, so you know what I'm talking about. Yes, exactly. So they walk up to you, hi, my name is Evan, and I'm a dancer. It's wonderful to meet you. Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm an artist. It is fabulous to meet you. Oh my gosh, I am Sarah, and I'm a dinosaur expert. It is awesome. What's your genius? Have you heard that before? I don't know if you remember, because you're a little ways away from 5, but that was you. So every 5-year-old that I've met, and I work with kids all over the world, I see thousands, probably by this time, after 31 years of conversation, I probably somehow talked to about 1 million kids. And every 5-year-old that I've asked, it doesn't matter if they're in London, it doesn't matter if they're in Denver, Colorado, it doesn't matter if they're in the middle of a cornfield in Iowa, which is where I grew up. Not actually in the middle of a cornfield, but in a very small town in Iowa. Every 5-year-old I've ever met comes forth with their genius. They do it fiercely, they do it fully, they tell you not only what they do, they tell you who they are. And here's what I noticed, because I spent about 10 years when I first started teaching with 4 and 5-year-olds. So I thought this was how the world worked. They taught me how the world worked. So everybody I walked up to, I wanted to know their genius, because every 4 and 5-year-old told me theirs. And then I started going to different grade levels. So I taught 2nd grade, and I taught 3rd grade, and I taught grade 4, grade 5, all the way up to university. And, thought the world worked this way. And so I'd say, hi, I am Angela, what's your genius? We would shake hands, or I would hug them, and they would stop. They would hesitate. Not just grown-ups, but 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds. And I started getting really stressed out. And I started getting really upset and wondering, when did we stop talking about our genius? When did we stop believing that we had something extraordinary that should be shared with other people in the world? When did we start holding back? Because here's what is truth. Not only truth of 5-year-olds, but truth in the world. The reason a 5-year-old comes up and tells you that they're a dinosaur expert is not because they're trying to brag, or they tell you that they're an amazing dancer, or an amazing artist, or that they can whistle better than anyone in the world. They do that not from a place of arrogance. They do that from a place of obligation. They can't imagine, what's your name?
Joe.
They cannot imagine Joe going through his whole life not being able to whistle, when right in front of them is a whistling expert, which is not true. I cannot whistle. I've tried my whole life, but I cannot whistle. They can't imagine, what's your name? Josh, going through his whole life being confused about the difference between a stegosaurus and a tyrannosaurus. They cannot imagine Dylan going through his life thinking that they could help him dance better because they see some moves happening right there. They can do that. Yep. So they tell you what their genius is because they understand that your life and the world could be better if they shared. And so they feel like they're going to burst. So we were in Texas, which is a giant, giant state in the United States. It's almost like its own country. And we were walking through classrooms so that I could introduce myself. And of course, I walked into a first grade classroom and I sat down and the teacher said, I don't think the kids even know what the word genius is. I said, oh, don't worry. The world doesn't understand the word genius. We're going to figure that out. But I said, they'll tell me. So I was in there about 5 seconds. And the first child literally was like they were going to burst. You could tell like they were bursting from the inside out, and he just popped up and said, I am an animal expert, and I'm going to save animals from the sea and whatever happens to animals in the sea that's not good. And then it was like this. There's this game at fairs that we have where something pops up and you pop it down, and then another thing pops up and you pop it down. There's a name for that. I don't know the name for that.
Whack-a-mole.
So, whack-a-mole, yes. And that's what it was in the classroom, except I didn't pop them. I just said, keep popping up. And they're like, I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And followed by that was, I'm going to do this because the world needs me to. I didn't say a word to them. All I did was smile at them. And their genius just popped out. So, I want you to think about this for a minute. And I want you to think about this sentence. In fact, I'm going to write it up there because this is a sentence I want us to pay attention to today. You are a genius. And this is an important and, the world needs your contribution. So I've done this enough to know the answer to this question. But it's not important for me to know the answer to this question, it's important for you to. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes so that you're not stressed by the person next to you or the person behind you and what they think. Because at the end of the day, it's what you believe when you look in the mirror. When I say this sentence, close your eyes, you are a genius and the world needs your contribution. With full honesty, full transparency, no judgment, do you believe me? And if you believe me, raise your hand. And if you don't believe me, keep your hand down and that's okay too. Do you believe you are a genius and the world needs your contribution? All right, thank you. Thanks for sharing. So I'll tell you that I've asked that question to almost 1 million kids. And here is how it plays out. And I won't share what happened here. If I'm in a room of 10,000 5-year-olds, how many hands go up? 10,000 5-year-olds. I say, do you believe me? You're a genius and the world needs your contribution. How many hands in that auditorium of 10,000 5-year-olds go up? 10,000. Every single time. 100%, there's not a single hand down. So now let's move to grade 6, like halfway. When I do grade 6, how many hands go up? What do you think? About half. You're a genius. Absolutely. About half. Half hands stay down. No, I don't think I am anymore. That like fell out of me. I don't know where it went, but I was at 5, but not anymore. How about high school? How many high school students, how many hands go up?
10.
About 1%. 1%. Hands go up. That means that 99% of kids and grown-ups beyond high school, 99% of the world, and people that are working in the world, people that are to be contributing in the world, people that are leading in the world, 99% of them do not believe this. 99% of them. And that the reason they call people the 1%ers, or genius, if you will, the people that impact the world, the people that create the world, the people that lead change in the world, how many of them do you think believe that? What do you think? All of them. And that's the difference between the people that change the world, which we call geniuses, and the people that don't, the people that wait. That is the line. The line isn't, these people's brains are different, these people's background is different, these people's education is different. The difference is, these people think different. They think different about the world and about their role in it. And they see it as their obligation to use everything that they have and know to change the world. You don't take a class to get to this side. You take a look in the mirror. You look in the mirror and say, who am I in the world? Am I that 5-year-old who will walk up to anyone in the grocery store, anyone sitting next to them, anyone on the train or bus, and say, I am Nick, and I am a dinosaur expert, and whatever you need, I will serve you. That's the 1%. I'm not expecting in the hour that we have together to get you all over here. What I want you to do is ask yourself where you are on this line between the 1% of the world that changes the world and the 99% that sits there and waits for them, that holds in and hides and does not share who they really are and what makes them alive. And when did you stop believing that your hand was worthy of being raised? I want you to think about that. Not just for this hour, but for every hour for the rest of your life. Because I think about that every day. I wake up and consciously choose to be in this 1%. To say to people that I believe are smarter than me and wiser than me and taller and every other word that we use that stops us from being full. And I say, you know what? I am a genius too. I have something that the world needs, and that is the reason I get up in the morning. So, the first step in figuring out where you are across this line is understanding what we mean and what the world means when we say the word genius. And so I don't want it to be my opinion. I don't want it to be my perspective. I want it to be based in fact. And so my background has been the study of language, or what we call linguistics, for the last 30 years. Where does language originate from? So in this bag, I have 2,000 years of definitions of the word genius across every discipline, across every community, across every era that has existed when people discussed what made someone in that 1% and what made them ordinary? What is genius? So before we look at the world's definition, I want to get our definition so that we can compare those. Is what we believe genius to be accurate according to the world, or is what we believe genius to be something that should be shifted or adapted? All right? So I want you to close your eyes. And when I say the word genius, I want you to think of any image that comes in your mind, any words associated with that image, even colors and shapes and sounds. And when you can, in every way possible, describe what genius means to you, what does it look like? What's it sound like? What color is it? What names would you associate it with? I want you to turn to a couple people next to you. You can even like huddle up and then talk about those words and images, sounds, shapes. Go ahead. So give it a whirl. Talk. So let's just write genius according to us. All right. If I had to draw it.
Oh my God. Okay.
What would my that single person? Good. Has everybody had a chance to share something? An image, a word? Because I want the contribution to be from everyone. So if you didn't share with someone next to you, make sure that when we pull it out, that this represents truly our version and our vision of genius. And if something comes up as we're writing this down, please add it, because I want this to be as complete and as representative of the entire group's experience, not just a single person's. So go ahead, there's no order, just, you don't have to raise your hand, just shout out. What is genius? If you had to draw it, if you had to describe it, if you had to defend it or define it, what is genius? Yep. Different. Yes.
Drastic change.
Drastic change. Yes.
Extraordinary.
Extraordinary. Yes.
Unique perspective.
Unique perspective.
Light bulb.
Light bulb. Great. Any other images? Light bulb. Yes. Adapting.
Y'all are too fast.
I know, poor Daisy's like writing. Yes.
Extraordinary.
Innovation. Innovation? Yes.
Clever.
Clever. Can you share the image that you had today?
So it's like a brain.
A brain. Actually, let's help Daisy. Who can help write as well?
Somebody else write.
Okay, a brain.
What did I miss? I missed something.
Okay, yes, just
Yes,
go up there
help
and
me,
add. You
help
want to
me,
get as
help me.
descriptive as possible. All right, so a brain. Any words, images associated with that?
I've missed something. I know I've missed something. What about
Different, drastic change, ordinary,
Drastic.
unique, light bulb, brain. Any other words,
What else?
colors, sounds?
Somebody, I missed somebody.
What?
Insight.
Insight. All right. Does insight have a color, a sound, anything associated with?
White colours.
Bright colors, like a flash. That's a big thing in my mind. Like genius in my mind was like a flash in the dark in somebody's brain I have the image of a basement. So I see like a person with a giant brain in a quiet corner by themselves in a basement that had just like a flash that just came across their brain, and all of a sudden, poof, there was innovation. There was some kind of thing that changed the world, like instantaneously magic. So I would use the word magic. Yes?
Rubik's Cube.
Rubik's Cube. Rubik's Cube. Yes, I can see that. Yes?
Unique.
Unique, extraordinary, unique. What else? Images. What are some images that come up when you see genius? Yes?
Like a mad scientist.
Like a mad scientist in their basement, right? In their pajamas. No. Mad scientist. You guys shared the image. It was, you couldn't say if it was a man or a woman, but it was a single person. A single person acting alone somewhere having this revelation, right? All right. Anything else? Anything different? Yes.
Advancing.
Advancing? Yes. Advancing something, like having some, giant mission, advancing it. I love that word, advancing. Anything else? Have we heard from everyone? Yes, yes, yes.
Space.
Space. All right. Space. They're advancing something like gigantic, right? Yes.
Moving forward.
Moving forward. They're moving forward something. Something extraordinary, right? Anything else? Yes.
Sonic boom.
What'd you say?
Sonic boom.
Sonic boom. Yes, I hear a boom. Like not just a flash of lightning, but a boom. It's like that grand, that great. Space. Yes.
Infinite.
Infinite. Infinite. All right.
Isn't it? Going fast.
Is there a gender associated with it? Is there a shape associated with it? Is there other words? Not necessarily that you associate, but that the world might have described to you in your experience with the idea of genius. Do we feel good about this? So let me hear from the grown-ups in the room. Would you add to this in your definition, in the narrative that you've been told, this is genius and this is not? What would you add to that?
Einstein.
Einstein. Yep, he's my basement guy. Yep, Einstein. Yep,
Specialist.
specialist.
I think there's two types. Some people are absolute specialists in one field, and like Einstein, where we see, and Stephen Hawking. But there's other people that are just generally overall a genius.
Okay, so let's describe that. So specialist is they have one area. Like Mozart, we think he played the piano, and Einstein was a scientist. So it's this very refined, deliberate, like little nth of the world that is just theirs. But then you also said, just simply genius. What does that mean? Just simply genius.
So some people are just all-rounders, incredibly, able to deal with just about anything and be able to take on board any problem and solve it.
Okay.
I think that's a
Solving
an even
problems.
narrower
So let's write that. Solving problems. Peter, how about you?
I was in creativity and
Creativity.
people that are very creative
Okay.
within the theatre and arts.
Okay. So arts, theater, very creative. Jim, how about you?
I'd both go with Leonardo da Vinci and Lionel Messi.
Okay. Tell me why those two
But
names.
Da Vinci was I think he's the ultimate genius in terms of his ability across science to anticipate future inventions as well as invent something himself. An amazing artist, the extraordinary individual. And Messi is an example of genius in football.
Can you put Messi? You'd put Messi. Okay. All right. Oh, Messi. That's a name. Not Messi. Like
No, not as in Messi.
chaotic. I actually have that image, like messy, chaotic, like some mad scientist, like Stefan. So also put Messi, M-E-S-S-Y, like can't get their head on straight. Yes.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Because he, like, no matter, like, everyone told him he couldn't do it, and he eventually did get
Okay. What word would we use to describe that? Somebody who refuses, determined, that refuses to say, like, you can't do that, well, too bad. I'm determined.
Someone with great perseverance.
Perseverance. Great perseverance. Absolutely, yes.
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. Put that up there. Why did you put him?
Because he done, like, a lot of good things, like sick children.
For sick children. So he used his genius towards something bigger than just being a dancer or a singer or a performer. So he used his genius, he pushed his genius beyond that. It goes back to this, to make a contribution to the world, beyond just sharing who he is. Yes?
The
the Wright brothers,
The Wright brothers. And why would you put them up there?
because they're the people who invented the plane, and that just generally changed travel in the world.
All right. So they made a change in the world, something impactful. And you also were the first one to bring up that it was a team. So everyone else we put up there is an individual, some lone person who did it by themselves. Do you think because they're brothers that made a team, or do you think genius is something still for an individual?
It can be like whatever. You can find it in anyone, I think.
You can find it in anyone you guess. All right? Yes.
I think of Shaquille O'Neal because of his sheer power of ability of slam dunking,
Okay.
and that made the game harder because they had to increase the height of the basketball hoop.
So two things you said. Not only did Shaquille O'Neal have a really kind of what you said, Dan, a drilled down specific, like finite skill, but because of that, he changed the rules of the game for other people. So that's really important. Geniuses didn't follow the rules of what currently was the status quo. Genius, because of their contribution, changed the rules of the game for everyone forever afterwards. Yes.
Autism.
Who?
Autism.
Autism. So tell me about that.
Most people we regard as genius, for example, Albert Einstein, had some sort of learning disability, like
Okay.
dyslexia.
Interesting. So there's not perfection in genius, is what you're saying. So in genius, there's flaws. They are not this almighty perfect. There's imperfection. But as you said, what did they say about that imperfection? Whether someone else noticed it, like Michael Jordan, or they noticed it themselves, what did they say about their imperfection?
They just kept going on. They didn't care. They didn't listen to anyone else. So I focused on that goal.
Right. Absolutely. Complete, fierce perseverance above imperfection. Yes.
Stephen Hawking, because of, even though everything was against him, he's one of the smartest people alive.
Yes. Absolutely. Unsurmountable odds, but also you use the word smart, which goes back to your image of brain. That genius is about brain, about smart, about inventing something, about intelligence. All right, so that's plenty. That's great. All right, so now these are definitions of centuries of people talking about the most incredible 1% of human beings in their response. What they believed were the key words, ideas, essence of what made genius. And you may find nothing different that we would add, but I think it brings a perspective that it isn't just us. People have been studying the concept of genius for 2,000 years. So I did not put the date on here. You'll recognize that some of the quotes about genius are Aristotle, so he's an old guy, and some of them are from Jay-Z, and he's still alive, and married to Beyonce. So who knows what he thinks about genius? But anyway, so there's a whole mix. So why don't you just take a pile, have a look, and see if this changes anything. Just grab a pile, and Einstein's in there because he's right here with me everywhere. So, again, you don't have to use the exact words they use, but if it ignites an image, if it ignites a word, a color, a sound like a flash or a boom, then I want to capture that as well. So this is genius according to us. This is genius according to the world for the past 2,000 years. And go ahead and see if you can turn or shift a little bit and try to talk to somebody that you didn't talk to in the first round. So you guys, why don't you split and go over there and talk to these guys so that everybody has another perspective to add to the conversation. Every voice heard. So do you guys want to just walk over here? Or you can bring your chairs over and just sit. You guys can talk either twos or fours. Thank you for moving up here. Are you good here? Have this? Good, good, good. That rocks. I appreciate that initiative. Then I'll kind of move back in here. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Did we run out? Do you guys have enough? Take a few so that you've got a big, wide
I need
range.
some up here, Angela. Angela.
Yes.
Take some up here.
Okay, here. Just take the bag. Sorry they're a little squished. I had to put a bunch of stuff, and I only had one bag to come. Here, do you have some? Here, why don't you come back here? Let's go sit back here and see if we can sit. You want to join right here? Do you mind sitting Like I can sit on the floor with you, so you're not alone. All right, tell me what you. Wow, that's a definition right there. What you take that one.
Yes.
There might be a word in it. There might be just something that ignites
Thousands of genius live and die undiscovered either by themselves or by others. No idea who this is.
Have you actually got the exact same one? What have you got?
They find it
Two is the same.
Read that to them and see what they think. Because the word target is really important in there. You guys read the definitions to each other so you can hear it and read it. Sometimes hearing it ignites something different than just reading it.
I like that.
And I would add the process of education.
Does it mean
Every child knows.
But the only reason why I noticed is
Yeah,
to find something more
So read it again.
That's not strictly true, is it?
This is what I said about
Tablets were created to discover what we that's preventing it.
every one of them. Educated.
What means that everyone's genius, but they don't know to find it yourself. So they say it's only thousands.
What's that?
This is why I wake up every day. All right. Is this your favorite? You know, if you can, pick a favorite and then kind of defend that. Like, why is this my favorite? Like, it doesn't have to be one you like. It could be one that you disagree with or one that disturbs you. So do you like this or does it disturb you? Do you like it? Okay. So it says, that's the one we just talked about over there. Every child is born a genius. If children grew up according to early indications, we would have nothing but genius.
But few people, whereas geniuses, they see past that and they see past and they set their own goals and become their own people.
Genius is the capacity to see 10 things when ordinary man sees one.
And they may go their whole life. So think about what I said about 5 wins. 5 wins. So just so you guys know, not everyone is
Always inside.
not near as So, and I will make sure that I'll not be very
Exactly. If you don't show it, they won't know it.
Do you think 5 wins?
That's a good one. If you don't show it, you won't know it. Yeah, that's right. If you don't show it, they won't know it. So you need to show it so they do. Then you're a genius and they don't know. And no one understands you.
Just white no sugar.
Not really honey now. No, already not jars, but
Let's tell them. Yeah, so everyone else can
understand. Yeah, but then even when you do let out your genius, like, the world doesn't understand you because like you see things that other people don't. That's
advice, smart, not, you said something important, smart enough, and everyone thinks that the world wants smart, that's a really important distinction. They're not the same thing.
I think genius could.
You are.
Everyone has their own talent. Maybe it's not smart. Human
Very, very good point. Okay, I'm going to give you about 1 more minute. If you haven't shared, if you haven't added your perspective, make sure that your voice is heard so everybody is represented, even if everybody doesn't get to share. So,
Genius. Magician with a.
Thank you very much for starting.
Angela, nice to meet you. Wonderful for you to be here. Yes, no, come on in. And I'm so happy you're joining us. Like, you don't have to observe. I want you to know it.
I'm interested.
All right. So I would, like, I want to make sure I see all your faces. So you know what I'm going to have you guys do? Come join me over here so we have like a circle. So if you guys could put your chairs here, you guys could put your chairs here. We'll just make like a giant circle so I can see everybody. Scooch back. All right. All right. Yes. We'll scooch here. Let's do this. We'll spread the circle out so that we have more in it. Awesome. All right. Scooch back there. Spread the circle out. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation. So normally, I would get to see you every day like your teachers. So I'm rushing us through this. I want us to really deeply think about this. I want these quotes, I want these questions to disturb us. I want us to say, I don't agree with that, or that bothers me, because this should bother you. It should bother you what we believe or what we think and how it has been played out for centuries. And it's interesting on some of the quotes that you picked were most disturbing or ones that you liked best or resonated. They speak to exactly that. So I'm gonna, because I spent some time with Blake and his group, I'm gonna pick on you, Blake, a little bit, because Blake did something really brave. He shared with me that he did not raise his hand earlier. Many of you were in Blake's category. You did not raise your hand when I said you are a genius and the world needs your contribution. You might have brushed off and said, that's just this weird lady from the US coming in trying to be weird. And she's gonna leave and this is stupid. And I'm fine, because I know a lot of people think that. So, what is not fine is that there's way too many of you that were in Blake's team that did not raise their hand. And in the next class I go in the next class over the next 10 days, that's one less person that is giving themselves fully to their lives and to the world. And that disturbs me so much that I flew all the way across the world so we could talk about it. So, Blake shared one of the quotes that resonated with everyone in this group, which was very similar to the one that we talked about, and you'll see the connection that resonated. So Blake, would go ahead. What's your name? Ben. Can you read that out loud so everybody can hear it?
Every child is born a genius. If children grew up according to early indications, we should have nothing but geniuses.
So every child is born a genius. If children grew up to these early indications, we would have nothing in the world but individuals who embodied, embraced, and lived this. Every day they entered the world owning their extraordinary, being proud of their uniqueness, advancing ideas, advancing innovation, advancing with determination and perseverance their vision of the world. Every day we would have a world filled with individuals that do this. Is that the case? No. We have a world where 99% of the world and the workforce sits and waits and hides and holds in the early indications of things that were valuable. So can you share yours? What's your name, honey?
Liam.
Liam, can you share yours? Because it fits with this.
The quote was something along the lines of how we're born as geniuses when we're young, but as we go through life, it starts to de-genius us.
Can you read that?
Everyone is born a genius, but the process of living, geniuses don't.
Everyone is born a genius, and the process of living and the process of education de-geniuses them, which should be the opposite. And based on fact, and based on data, and based on science, that is exactly true. So, and that's hardcore science, that you can do this 99% and 1% in every country, in every community, in every place in the world. 99% of the world is not contributing fully. And that is not just an economic problem, that's not just an academic problem, that's an emotional problem. Because people are going through the world not believing in their full selves. And that makes people very unhappy. So we have a poll, a survey in the United States called the Gallup poll. And it surveys individuals that are working across all kinds of different jobs, from a doctor to a dentist to a dog trainer, in hundreds of different fields. And this survey last year was 100 million grown-ups. So it's not like 10 people, 100 million grown-ups. And they asked them, do you give your full self to your job every day? Do you wake up and run to work because you're going to be doing these things? Because you are going to be using your extraordinary, because you are going to be moving and advancing forward your ideas, because you are going to be sharing infinitely, persevering through anything. Do you do that? And 88 million of them said, I have to drag myself to work every day. Not only am I not doing this, I openly don't want to be at work. I am apathetic, I am complacent, I am disengaged, and I am absolutely miserable. And I don't remember the last time I felt life. Does that surprise you? And the cost for America to people going to work that way is $15 trillion a year. $15 trillion a year to try to remind people that when they were 5, they ran to school. And when they were 5, they felt every one of those things. So, what would we add based on this, any new insight that you got from your quote? What other words, what are ideas, what other things help us redefine what genius really is? Yes?
We have a target.
Target, all right, so, I'm sorry, Dan, can you write on the board? Thank you. So we have a target. Talk to me about that. That was Aristotle. So what do you think he meant?
Like, he always has a target and he always wants to complete it.
And whose target is it?
His personal target.
Mm-hmm. So there's a difference. Can you read the quote? Because there's another line in the quote. Can you read it? Can you get to it? Read it loud. Do you have it?
No, definitely no.
You can't find the quote. Do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see.
So there's something very specific about what Aristotle said about the target. So let's go to the first one. Talent, which is what we say we're trying to develop. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. So whoever hits that target, whether it is number of basketballs thrown or number of songs played or how fast your feet go or how loud you whistle, that's talent. Somebody has developed that talent. They worked a lot of years and they played a lot of stuff and they've hit a talent and they're at the top of their game, the top of their ladder. Genius hits a talent, hits a target that no one else can see. That's a really important distinction. What does that mean? Yeah.
It's saying like inventors, they invent, they see things that no one else can see, they look into the future and create.
So, genius sees the world differently than everyone else, which is why a lot of people think they're crazy. Because when they tell someone else what their big ideas are, when they tell someone else, this doesn't exist right now. Targets exist. If another person can see the target, then you can compete for it. This is the target we're going for. So you practice, practice, practice. You try to beat me. I practice, practice. I try to beat you. That's competition. Genius never competes. Genius never compares. genius advances their own vision. Genius sees, locks in, and no matter what comes, no matter how many people say that can't happen, you're crazy, that will never exist, genius wakes up every day and says, correct, it does not exist, but I will make it exist. And that's a really big difference. Because we've been told if we hit the targets that everybody else sees, and we hit the targets that everybody else knows, that we will make an impact. Is that the case? That is not the case. And it requires a very different skill set. Because this skill set still requires perseverance, it requires practice, it requires focus, it requires absolute commitment. But the skill of a genius to be able to see what the rest of the world can't, what does that involve?
Finding something new, just like not listening to any people that say it's impossible. Go for it.
Which means you gotta have a lot of courage. You gotta have a lot of courage. You gotta have a lot of faith. You've gotta have hope. You've gotta have heart. Your brain isn't gonna get you there. Your brain is absolutely not the most important thing and doesn't determine what your vision is. Your heart does. Your soul does. Your faith does. Your hope does. Those are attributes of genius because that's what they operate on. That's life for them. That's breath for them. All right, anything, am I over time? I need to see you all day. I want to see you tomorrow and I have to leave and I hate it. So, anything else you would add from any other definition? Give me your favorite definition.
Sam, you can go.
Yeah, Sam.
Thousands of geniuses live and die undiscovered, either by themselves or by others.
Thousands of genius live and die, never being discovered. And this is important, either by themselves or by the rest of the world. That is what I call a tragedy. That is why I wake up every morning. That is heartbreak. For somebody to not realize what a gift they are and how much they're needed by other people. Anybody else want to share a favorite one? Then I'm gonna close this with an invitation, yes.
Most people in the Western world grow up with the received wisdom that Mozart was a genius, but few people necessarily know why. More than anyone else, he captured the something which is the human condition, fine line that we all constantly dance between joy and pain, between absolute happiness and absolute heartbreak.
Wow. What made you choose that?
Oh, I just wanted to know more about it.
Yeah.
Fully understand it.
Because people see the skill, the target. That was Mozart. He wrote this many songs, he created this. They don't see the process. They don't see the pain, they don't see the hope, they don't see the courage, they don't see the stuff behind the scenes that torments many geniuses because they're doing something that no one else in the world can see and has never attempted.
Angela, we have
Yes.
another 45 minutes.
Yes, we did. I am over. Way
No,
over.
no, no. You know, you have another.
Oh, we have another 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want a little break, we've got
Yes.
refreshments.
Okay,
and some
perfect.
cookies and stuff. Just
So
always
here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We have an organization of about 1 million students in 68 countries across the world that are choosing, whether they believe it fully or not, they are acting as if they do. They are choosing not only to see their own genius, but they are choosing to contribute their genius towards something bigger than themselves that doesn't exist right now. And they're doing it in school. And so I would love to speak to you about what that looks like because I'm going to be sharing it. We actually call it Genius Hour. So 1 hour a week during school, which is what I'm going to present to your teachers and to your leaders. You will be, and this is why our friends at Smart Technologies are here, because there was not a space for you to do that with anyone else that's not in the room. So because the space didn't event and didn't exist, the students are creating this space. They are working with the team at Smart saying, we don't have this yet, but will you build this for us? And that's exactly what they're doing. Right now, as we sit here and speak, we are going to the largest technology conference in the UK this week, and we're presenting the foundations of this platform that is being built to not only allow you to highlight what your genius is, but for you to connect to genius leaders and genius learners all across the world to do something that makes an impact. So I'm not just asking you to believe this for the heck of it. When I say the world needs your contribution, I mean it. In the last 9 months, these students have launched 156 social enterprises. They've passed 17 laws, and they've moved forward change in 68 countries in a way that I've never seen any adult, any company, or any group of adults do. And here's the kicker. The majority of the students doing this, making an impact, creating the world that doesn't exist, are 8, 9, and 10 years old. There are very few high school students that are doing this. And almost all of the big idea changes are from girls. Very few boys. We can change that today if you want to know more. I'm serious when I say the world needs your contribution. And it is not okay that you did not raise your hand. And not only do I want you to raise your hand, I want to help you keep your hand up, and I want to help you keep your hand high. So let's take a 10-minute break and think about that, and then I will show you what it means to live your genius every day, to contribute your genius every day, whether it's in school, in your studies, or it's in the world, and give you a chance to see what that kind of life looks like. All right? So take 10 minutes, think about this, and we'll come back, and I want you to ask me some hard questions. I want you to ask me some questions about this, all right?